Forced out of the penthouse she once called home, Clara had no idea her quiet life was built on a secret worth $50 billion. Her husband, Damien, stood coldly beside her mother, both treating her like a burden, while Vanessa, the hospital nurse he had been hiding as his mistress, laughed in her face. To them, Clara was powerless, a betrayed wife with no money, no family, and nowhere to go. But the joke ended the moment a sealed inheritance file revealed the truth. Clara was not just the rightful owner of a massive real estate empire, she owned the luxury building they lived in, the companies Damien depended on, and the very hospital where Vanessa proudly wore her nurse's badge. When Vanessa discovered she had mocked and destroyed the woman who secretly signed her paychecks, fear replaced her laughter. What she did next left Clara shaken, but Damien's reaction was even worse. Desperate to reclaim the fortune he had thrown away, he crossed a line no one expected. By the time Clara finally understood her power, her enemies had already made one mistake too many, and their downfall was about to begin in the most unimaginable way. Clara Blackwood stood barefoot in the hallway of the 50th floor, staring at the closed penthouse door as if it might open again and prove the last 10 minutes had only been a nightmare. It did not open. Behind that door were the rooms she had decorated with her own hands, the kitchen where she had learned to cook Damien's favorite meals, the balcony where she had once believed they would grow old together, and the framed wedding photo that still sat on the marble console near the elevator. But now all she had was one small suitcase, a thin sweater, and the sound of Vanessa's laughter still ringing in her ears. "Don't make this uglier than it already is," Damien had said, his voice as smooth and cold as the glass walls around him. Clara had looked from him to her mother, Elena, expecting one person in that room to defend her. Her mother had not even blinked. "You should have known how to keep a husband," Elena had said, folding her arms. "Damien needs a woman who understands his world." Then Vanessa had stepped from behind Damien, wearing one of his white shirts beneath a designer coat Clara recognized as her own. Vanessa had smiled like she had won a crown. "I guess the penthouse needed a real woman in it," Vanessa said. Clara remembered the words clearly because they had landed harder than any slap. She had not screamed, she had not begged, she had simply looked at Damien and asked, was any of it real? Damien's expression had not changed. "Real enough," he said, "but not useful anymore." The elevator arrived with a soft chime. The private security guard refused to meet Clara's eyes as he escorted her inside. Clara pressed her hand against the elevator wall as the penthouse disappeared above her. By the time she reached the lobby, rain had started falling outside. The doorman who had greeted her for 3 years pretended to be busy with a phone call. A woman entering the building glanced at Clara's suitcase and damp sweater, then looked away. Clara stepped out into the storm. She had no car. Damien had taken the keys. Her cards had been declined when she tried to call a ride. Her phone had only 13% battery. For the first time in years, Clara realized she had nothing she could call her own. Except her name. And even that, she soon discovered, had been stolen from her. The night was cold, and every hotel near the building was too expensive. Clara walked 6 blocks to a small diner that stayed open all night and sat in the corner booth, holding a paper cup of coffee she could barely afford. She did not cry until the waitress, an older woman named Ruth, placed a plate of toast in front of her. "I didn't order this," Clara whispered. Ruth gave her a gentle look. "You looked like someone who forgot to eat." That kindness broke something in her. Clara lowered her head and cried quietly into her hands. She had always thought of herself as ordinary. She had been raised to believe she was lucky anyone loved her at all. Elena had reminded her constantly that beauty faded, patience mattered, and a wife should never embarrass her husband by asking too many questions. Damien had been charming when they met. He was ambitious, polished, and wealthy enough to make Elena proud. Clara had never cared about the money, but her mother had cared enough for both of them. "You will marry him," Elena had told her. "Men like Damien don't choose girls like you twice." So Clara had married him. She had tried to be good. She had smiled at dinners where no one listened to her. She had stayed quiet when Damien dismissed her opinions. She had accepted Alina's criticism as if it were advice. And now they had thrown her away like she was a coat that no longer fit. Her phone buzzed. For one wild second, Clara thought it might be Damien apologizing. It was not. The message came from an unknown number. Miss Blackwood, I have been trying to reach you for several days. My name is Arthur Voss. I was your late grandfather's attorney. Your presence is urgently required tomorrow morning at Blackwood and Hale Legal Chambers regarding the final release of your inheritance. Clara stared at the screen. Grandfather. She had no grandfather, at least none that Alina had ever spoken of. Her father had died when Clara was very young, and whenever Clara asked about his family, Alina would say they were gone, cruel, or irrelevant. Another message arrived. Please do not discuss this message with Alina Pierce or Damien Vale. Clara's breath caught. Alina Pierce was her mother's maiden name. Damien Vale was her husband. Why would a stranger know both? She typed back with trembling fingers. Who are you? The reply came almost immediately. Someone who has spent 23 years waiting for you to be free. Clara did not sleep that night. At 7 in the morning, Ruth helped her call a cab and pressed a folded bill into her palm. Pay me back when life gets better, Ruth said. Clara wanted to argue, but the kindness in Ruth's face stopped her. Thank you, she whispered. Blackwood and Hale Legal Chambers was located in an old stone building downtown, far from the glittering towers Damien loved. Clara arrived with wet hair, tired eyes, and a suitcase dragging behind her. The receptionist looked at her name and immediately stood. Miss Blackwood, she said, her tone filled with unexpected respect. Mr. Voss is waiting. Clara followed her through a hallway lined with portraits of people who looked important enough to shape countries. At the end of the hall, an elderly man in a dark suit rose from behind a mahogany desk. Clara, he said softly. No one had said her name like that in years, not like it mattered. Arthur Voss was tall, thin, and silver-haired. His eyes were kind but heavy, like he had carried too many secrets for too long. Please sit, he said. Clara did. Arthur placed a leather folder on the desk between them. Before I explain, I need to confirm something. Did Alina remove you from the penthouse last night? Clara's stomach tightened. How do you know that? Because she knew the inheritance would become fully accessible once you were no longer legally dependent on Damien Vale's household. Arthur's jaw tightened. She thought forcing you out would make you weak enough to sign whatever she placed in front of you. Clara shook her head. I don't understand. Arthur opened the folder. Inside was a photograph of a man holding a little girl in a yellow dress. Clara recognized the child. Herself. The man beside her had silver-black hair, a wide smile, and eyes that looked painfully familiar. That is your grandfather, Arthur said, Jonathan Blackwood. Clara touched the edge of the photo. My mother told me he was dead before I was born. He died 6 months ago. The room tilted. No, Clara whispered, that can't be. I'm sorry, Arthur said. He tried to see you for years. Alina blocked every letter, every call, every visit. When you were 4, she took you out of the country for nearly a year. By the time Jonathan found you again, she had legally changed your address and convinced him that contact would damage you emotionally. Clara felt suddenly cold. Why would she do that? Money, Arthur said simply. Control, punishment. Your father, Adrian Blackwood, was Jonathan's only son. He married Alina against the family's advice, but Jonathan accepted it because Adrian loved her. When Adrian died, your mother expected to inherit everything through you. Jonathan refused to let her touch the estate. Clara stared at the folder. What estate? Arthur took out another document and turned it toward her. Blackwood Global Holdings. The name meant nothing to Clara at first, then she saw the list beneath it. Residential towers, commercial districts, luxury hotels, private hospitals, construction firms, land trusts, investment groups, international assets, foundations. And numbers so large they seemed fictional. Estimated estate value, $50 billion. Clara stopped breathing. "This is a mistake," she said. Arthur shook his head. "No mistake. Jonathan Blackwood left everything to you." Clara rose from the chair, dizzy. "No, I would know. Someone would have told me." "We tried," Arthur said, "for years." He opened another section of the folder. Copies of letters, returned envelopes, emails marked undeliverable, legal notices signed by Elena, statements claiming Clara wished no contact with the Blackwood family. Clara read her own forged signature again and again. Her hands started shaking. "My mother did this." Arthur's voice softened. "Yes. And Damien. He knew more than you think." Clara sank back into the chair. Arthur slid one final paper across the desk. "This is the first document you need to understand." At the top was the name of Damien's company, Vale Development Group. Clara knew it well. Damien had spent years bragging about its growth. Below it was a line that made her vision blur. Primary financing, land leases, and controlling investment interests held by Blackwood Global Holdings. Clara looked up slowly. "You mean?" "Damien's empire is built on land your family owns," Arthur said. "Technically, land you own." A laugh escaped Clara, but it sounded broken. The man who had thrown her out for having nothing had been living on her inheritance. Arthur turned another page. The name of the Penthouse building appeared. The Orium Tower. Owner, Blackwood Crown Residential Trust. Beneficiary, Clara Elise Blackwood. Clara pressed a hand to her mouth. "That penthouse," Arthur said, "is yours." For several seconds, the only sound in the office was the rain tapping against the window. Then Arthur added, "There is more. St. Victoria Medical Center is also under the Blackwood healthcare portfolio." Clara stiffened. St. Victoria was Vanessa's hospital. "Vanessa works there," Clara said. "Yes," Arthur replied, "as a senior nurse in the private recovery wing." The memory of Vanessa laughing in the penthouse doorway came back with cruel clarity. Clara had been mocked by a woman who worked in a hospital Clara owned, standing in a building Clara owned, beside a man whose business survived on Clara's family land. It was too much. "What am I supposed to do now?" Clara asked. Arthur leaned forward. "First, you do nothing out of anger. Second, you secure your position. Third, you let the truth come out in the one place they cannot control." "Where is that?" "The boardroom." 3 days later, Clara walked into Blackwood Global headquarters wearing a navy suit Arthur's assistant had helped her choose. It was not flashy. It was not meant to impress. It was armor. The headquarters occupied 60 floors of a glass tower overlooking the river. Clara had passed it many times with Damien. He had once pointed at it and said, "Old money hiding in plain sight. They own half the city but never show their faces." He had not known his wife was the face they had been waiting for. In the boardroom, 12 executives stood when Clara entered. Some looked surprised by her youth, some looked nervous. One woman near the center smiled with visible relief. Arthur introduced her. "Ladies and gentlemen, Clara Elise Blackwood, majority owner and chair of Blackwood Global Holdings." The title felt too large for her body. Clara sat at the head of the table. Her palms were sweating, but her voice stayed steady. "I won't pretend I understand everything today," she said, "but I understand enough. My grandfather protected this company because he believed it should build, heal, house, and serve people. I will honor that. But I also know people close to me have abused their access, lied about my identity, and profited from my silence. The room became still. I want full audits of every contract involving Vale Development Group, Elena Pierce, and any trust or shell company connected to them, Clara continued. I want St. Victoria Medical Center reviewed from top to bottom, especially staffing, finance, patient care, and private wing privileges. And I want all access connected to Damien Vale suspended immediately until legal review is complete. The woman, who had smiled, nodded. My name is Miriam Cole, she said, Chief Operations Officer. We have been waiting for authority to do exactly that. Then do it, Clara said. For the first time since the penthouse door slammed shut, Clara felt something other than pain. She felt movement. By noon, Damien felt it too. His first call came at 12:17 p.m. Clara watched his name flash on her phone and let it ring. Then came a message. What did you do? Another. Clara, answer me now. Another. This is a misunderstanding. We need to talk like adults. She did not answer. At 2:40 p.m., Damien arrived at Blackwood Global and demanded to see the chair. Security turned him away. At 3:05 p.m., Elena called. Clara answered. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Elena said, You ungrateful girl. Clara closed her eyes. Not darling, not daughter, not I'm sorry. Ungrateful girl. You stole my life from me, Clara said quietly. I protected you. You forged my name. I did what I had to do. You told me my grandfather was dead. Elena's voice sharpened. Jonathan Blackwood was a cruel old man who thought his money made him God. He left everything to me. He left everything to a child who had no idea what to do with it, Elena snapped. I raised you, I made sacrifices, do you think I deserved nothing? Clara's sadness hardened. You deserved honesty, she said, so did I. Elena laughed bitterly. You think that lawyer cares about you, you think those executives care, they will use you. Damien was right, you are too soft for this world. Maybe, Clara said, but I am learning. You will lose everything. No, Clara replied, I already lost what mattered, the rest is paperwork. She ended the call. That evening, the audit team found the first irregularity. Damien's company had been preparing a hostile acquisition proposal, backed by funds secretly routed through an entity connected to Elena. It was clumsy, desperate, and illegal enough to alarm every attorney in the room. They planned to pressure you into signing over voting authority, Arthur explained, most likely after making you believe you were ruined. Clara looked at the documents, the divorce papers. Arthur nodded. There was a clause buried inside the draft. If you signed, Damien would have obtained temporary control of any undisclosed marital assets. Clara remembered Damien pushing papers at her before ordering security to remove her. Just sign and leave with dignity, he had said. She had refused only because her hands were shaking too much to hold the pen. That tremor had saved her. 2 days later, Clara visited St. Victoria Medical Center. She did not go as an owner at first. She entered through the public doors with Miriam Cole and Dr. Raphael Mercer, the hospital's medical director. St. Victoria looked beautiful from the outside. Its walls gleamed white, its fountains shone beneath the spring sun, and its private wing served politicians, celebrities, and billionaires. But Clara noticed things she had never seen before. An old man waiting too long near reception, a young mother arguing gently over a billing issue, a tired cleaner pushing a cart past a donor wall filled with Blackwood names Clara had never been allowed to know. This hospital was one of your grandfather's proudest projects, Dr. Mercer said. It was supposed to provide elite care that funded free treatment programs. Does it? Clara asked. Dr. Mercer hesitated. Miriam answered, not as much as it should. Some programs were reduced under the last administrative board. Who appointed them? Miriam's mouth tightened. A temporary voting committee influenced by Elena Pierce. Clara looked around the lobby. Her mother had not only hidden her inheritance, she had used it. As they approached the private recovery wing, voices echoed from the nurses' station. Vanessa's voice. Clara stopped. Vanessa was laughing, leaning against the counter with a tablet in her hand. She wore navy scrubs, her hair pinned neatly, her badge shining beneath the fluorescent lights. She looked confident, beautiful, untouchable. Then she saw Clara. Her smile vanished. For a second, Vanessa looked annoyed, as if Clara had wandered somewhere she did not belong. "What are you doing here?" Vanessa asked. Dr. Mercer's brows lifted. "Nurse Vale." "I'm speaking to her," Vanessa interrupted. "She has no business in this wing." Clara said nothing. Vanessa stepped closer, lowering her voice but not enough. "Did Damien send you? Because showing up here is pathetic." Miriam's expression turned icy. Clara held up a hand, stopping her. Vanessa mistook the silence for weakness. "You should have taken the hint at the penthouse," she said. "Some doors close for a reason." Clara looked at the badge on Vanessa's chest. Vanessa Reed, senior nurse. Then she said, "You're right, some doors do close." Miriam turned to the staff gathered nearby. "Please clear the nurses' station," she said. "This wing is under administrative review." Vanessa frowned. "Who are you?" "Miriam Cole, Chief Operations Officer of Blackwood Global Holdings." Vanessa blinked. Dr. Mercer added, "And this is Clara Blackwood, Chair and owner of Blackwood Global's healthcare division, including St. Victoria Medical Center." The hallway went silent. Vanessa's face changed so quickly Clara almost felt sorry for her. Confusion came first, then disbelief, then fear. "No," Vanessa whispered. Clara did not smile. "Yes." Vanessa looked from Clara to Miriam to Dr. Mercer. "That's impossible. Damien said she had nothing." "He was mistaken," Clara said. A nurse behind the desk covered her mouth. Vanessa's eyes filled with panic. "Clara, I didn't know." The words struck Clara strangely. "I didn't know. Not I'm sorry, not I hurt you. I didn't know you were rich," Vanessa meant. Clara turned to Dr. Mercer. "Continue the review." She walked past Vanessa. But Vanessa reached out and grabbed her wrist. "Please," Vanessa said, voice cracking, "don't fire me." Clara looked down at the hand on her wrist. Vanessa released it immediately. "My job is all I have," Vanessa said. Clara remembered standing barefoot in the hallway with one suitcase while Vanessa laughed. "And my home was all I had," Clara replied. Vanessa flinched. Clara kept walking. By evening, preliminary records from St. Victoria showed that Vanessa had not merely been Damien's mistress. She had also used her hospital position to provide him with confidential information about donors, board members, and patients connected to Blackwood assets. Some of the information was minor. Some was serious enough to involve privacy violations. "She claims Damien asked harmless questions," Dr. Mercer said, "but she accessed records she had no reason to view." Clara stared at the report. "What happens now?" "She will be suspended pending investigation," Miriam said. "If the violations are confirmed, her license could be at risk." Clara leaned back in her chair. She had imagined revenge as something hot and satisfying. Instead, it felt heavy. Vanessa had humiliated her, yes, but watching another woman's life collapse did not heal Clara's wounds. It only showed her how far Damien's poison had spread. That night, Clara stayed at a secure guest residence owned by Blackwood Global. It was smaller than the penthouse, but warmer, with bookshelves, soft lamps, and rain tapping gently against the windows. At midnight, someone knocked on the door. Security called first. "Miss Blackwood, Vanessa Reed is downstairs. She says it's urgent." Clara almost refused. Then the guard added, "She is crying." Clara closed her eyes. "Bring her to the sitting room, stay nearby." Vanessa entered 10 minutes later without makeup, her hair loose, her eyes red. She looked nothing like the woman who had laughed in the penthouse. "I know I don't deserve to be here," Vanessa said. Clara stood across from her. "Then why are you?" Vanessa held out a flash drive. "Because Damien is going to hurt you." Security stepped closer. Clara did not take the drive. "Explain." Vanessa swallowed. "He called me after the hospital suspended me. He said everything was your fault. He said you embarrassed him. He said he had a way to fix it." "What way?" "He wants to prove you're mentally unstable," Vanessa said. "He wants to use your mother's old medical statements. He said if he can get you declared incapable of managing the inheritance, the court might appoint a conservator." Clara's blood went cold. "My mother's medical statements." Vanessa nodded. "Elena kept files on you. She told Damien you had emotional episodes as a child. He asked me to access hospital systems and see if there was anything he could use." "I was a child grieving my father," Clara said. "I know," Vanessa's voice broke. "I know now." Clara stared at her. Vanessa placed the flash drive on the table. "I recorded him. I don't know if it's legal or useful, but I recorded him." "Why?" Vanessa began crying harder. "Because he said when this was over, he would leave the country with me. But then I heard him talking to your mother. He called me disposable. He said I was just a nurse who knew too much." The room became very quiet. Vanessa wiped her face with trembling hands. "I laughed at you because I thought I had won, but I didn't win anything. I helped a cruel man destroy a woman who never did anything to me." Clara's anger rose, but beneath it was something else. A sharp, unwilling pity. "You expect forgiveness?" Clara asked. "No," Vanessa whispered. "I expect consequences, but I don't want him to win." Clara picked up the flash drive. "What you did at the hospital still matters," she said. "I know. You violated people's privacy. I know. You hurt me." Vanessa lowered her head. "I know." Clara looked at the security guard. "Have legal review this immediately." Then she turned back to Vanessa. "You will cooperate fully with the investigation. You will tell the truth about Damien, Elena, and everything you accessed. I won't protect you from consequences, but I won't let Damien use you as a shield either." Vanessa nodded quickly. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," Clara said. "Become someone who deserved this chance." Vanessa sobbed once, then covered her mouth. And Clara realized that this was the shocking thing Vanessa did when she discovered the truth. She did not attack. She confessed. She gave Clara the weapon that would expose them all. The recording changed everything. Damien's voice came through clearly, arrogant and furious. "She spent 3 years acting like a saint in my home. Now she thinks she can take what men built." Clara breaks under pressure. "Elena knows how to trigger her. We get the petition filed, question her capacity, freeze her control, and move fast before the board rallies around her." Then Elena's voice. "You must not underestimate Arthur. He protected Jonathan for decades." Damien laughed. "Arthur is old, Clara is weak, Vanessa is scared, and courts love a helpless woman narrative when it's packaged correctly." Another pause. Then Damien said something that made Clara's stomach turn. "If Clara won't sign, we create a situation where she has no choice." The legal team moved quickly. Protective filings were prepared. Security was increased. Arthur contacted law enforcement regarding fraud, attempted coercion, and privacy violations. But Damien was not finished. 2 mornings later, Clara woke to headlines. Blackwood heiress unfit to lead. Family sources raise concerns. Secret billionaire's troubled past revealed. New owner of St. Victoria accused of personal vendetta. against nurse. Clara sat at the breakfast table, reading each article as if they were about a stranger. They quoted unnamed family members. They described her as unstable, sheltered, vindictive. They suggested she had forced a hard-working nurse out because of a personal dispute. They claimed Damien had been her devoted husband, exhausted by her mood swings. Miriam called immediately. "We expected a smear campaign," she said, "not this fast." Clara looked at a photo of herself leaving the law office, suitcase in hand. Someone had taken it from across the street. "She looks lost," the caption read. Clara touched the screen. For one moment, she was back in the diner, wet and humiliated, wondering if she had any future at all. Then Ruth's words came back. "Pay me back when life gets better." Clara stood. "Schedule a press conference," she said. Arthur objected. Miriam objected. The public relations team objected loudly. But Clara had spent her entire life being spoken for by people who claimed they knew better. No more. The press conference was held in the lobby of St. Victoria Medical Center, beneath the donor wall bearing her grandfather's name. Cameras flashed as Clara stepped to the podium. She wore the same navy suit from her first board meeting. Her hair was simple, her face was pale but calm. "My name is Clara Elise Blackwood," she began. "For most of my life, I did not know the truth about my family. I did not know my grandfather was alive. I did not know letters had been hidden from me. I did not know signatures had been forged in my name." Reporters began shouting questions. Clara continued. "Recently, I learned I inherited Blackwood Global Holdings, including this hospital. Since then, an internal review has begun into financial misconduct, privacy violations, and improper influence involving people close to me." She paused. "I will not discuss private personnel matters today, but I will say this: no one will lose their job at St. Victoria because they embarrassed me. People will face consequences only if they violated patient trust, broke rules, or harmed this institution." The room quieted. "I have been called weak," Clara said. "Maybe I was. I trusted people I loved. I believed silence was peace. I thought endurance was strength. I was wrong. Strength is telling the truth when powerful people need you quiet." Arthur watched from the side, his eyes shining. Clara looked directly into the cameras. "To my husband, Damien Vale, any contracts between your company and Blackwood entities are under review. If they are clean, they will stand. If they are not, they will fall." Another flash of cameras. "To my mother, Elena Pierce, I will no longer carry shame that belongs to you." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "And to the staff and patients of St. Victoria, this hospital will return to what Jonathan Blackwood intended it to be, a place of care, dignity, and fairness, not a private playground for people who think wealth makes them untouchable." She stepped back. The questions exploded. But Clara had said enough. By the next morning, the story had shifted. Some outlets still called her dramatic, others called her brave. Former employees came forward. Old Blackwood letters appeared. Arthur released legally approved documents showing attempted contact with Clara over many years. Public sympathy began turning. Damien hated sympathy when it did not belong to him. That evening, he appeared at Clara's residence. Security stopped him outside the gates, but Clara watched the camera feed from the study. He looked different, his suit was wrinkled, his hair was damp from rain, his charming mask had cracked. "Tell her I'm her husband," he snapped at the guard. The guard said nothing. Damien looked up at the camera. "Clara," he said, forcing his voice into softness, "please, I made mistakes, but we loved each other. Don't let lawyers and strangers destroy us." Clara stared at the screen. 3 years of marriage, and he still did not understand her. She pressed the intercom. "Leave Damien." He froze. Then he smiled sadly. The the expression he used when manipulating investors. "There you are," he said. "I knew you. Listen. I'm listening because I want you to hear this clearly. Contact my attorneys. Do not come here again." His face hardened. "You think you're powerful now?" "No," Clara said. "I know I'm protected now. There's a difference. You would be nothing without that name." Clara leaned closer to the microphone. "And you were everything because of it." Damien's jaw clenched. For a moment she saw the real man beneath the polish, not wounded, not regretful. Enraged. "You'll regret humiliating me," he said. "I regret marrying you," Clara replied. She ended the feed. 2 hours later, the unimaginable began. A fire alarm went off at the Blackwood Archives building. At first, it seemed like an electrical issue. The archives housed old property records, family documents, trust files, and legal originals dating back generations. It was protected by modern systems, so the flames were contained quickly. But security footage revealed a man entering with forged credentials. The man was connected to Damien. Arthur called Clara near midnight, his voice grim. He wasn't trying to burn the building down, he said. He targeted specific storage rooms. What was inside? Original records proving your grandfather's attempts to contact you, trust documents, old medical guardianship files, and something else. Clara gripped the phone. What? Arthur hesitated. Your father's final letter. Clara went still. My father wrote me a letter. Yes, Adrian wrote it before his last surgery. Jonathan kept it safe for you. Clara could barely speak. Was it destroyed? No, Arthur said quickly. The originals were moved last week after your first board meeting. Damien didn't know. The rooms he targeted held decals and scanned copies. Relief hit so hard Clara had to sit down. Then came fury. Damien had tried to erase her father's words. Not for money, not for business. For control. The next day, law enforcement detained the man from the archive building. Within hours, he named Damien as the person who had paid him. Damien denied everything, of course. But the payment trail was sloppy. Desperation makes arrogant men careless. Elena disappeared from her apartment that same morning. For 3 days, Clara worked from the Blackwood headquarters, while attorneys, investigators, and executives moved around her like a storm. Vale Development's credit lines froze. Its board panicked. Partners withdrew. Damien's carefully built image cracked under the weight of audits and allegations. Then Vanessa testified. She arrived at the legal office pale but composed. Clara watched through a glass wall as Vanessa handed over messages, call logs, hospital access records, and the recording. When Vanessa emerged, she looked exhausted. Clara was waiting in the hallway. Vanessa stopped. I told them everything. I know. I'll probably lose my license. Maybe. Vanessa nodded, accepting it. Then she said, there's one more thing. Clara's guard shifted. Vanessa reached into her bag slowly and took out a small velvet box. Clara recognized it immediately. Her wedding ring. I found it in Damien's drawer, Vanessa said. He said he threw it away after you left. He lied. I think he kept it in case he needed to play grieving husband. Clara stared at the ring. She had not realized it was missing until that moment. Damien had taken it from the bedroom dresser before forcing her out. Vanessa held it out. Clara took it. The diamond caught the hallway light. Once it had symbolized love, then endurance, then humiliation. Now it was only a stone. Thank you, Clara said. Vanessa looked startled by the words. I don't forgive you, Clara added, but thank you for returning what wasn't yours. Vanessa's eyes filled. That's fair. Clara watched her leave and felt the strange ache of a chapter closing without becoming clean. Some betrayals did not end with revenge. Some ended with evidence, consequences, and the hard decision not to become cruel. A week later, Clara finally read her father's letter. Arthur brought it to her in a sealed envelope, yellowed with age but untouched by fire. They sat in Jonathan Blackwood's private study, a room preserved inside the old family estate. The estate stood on a hill outside the city, surrounded by oaks and stone walls. Clara had never been there before. Her father had grown up in that house. So had the history stolen from her. Clara held the letter for a long time before opening it. My dearest Clara, if you are reading this, it means life did not give me as much time with you as I prayed for. I wanted to teach you how to ride a bicycle, how to stand up to bullies, how to laugh when things go wrong, and how to know when someone loves you well. I may not get to do those things, but I need you to know this. You are not a burden. You are not a mistake. You are not hard to love. The world will try to convince you that kindness is weakness. Do not believe it. Kindness is only weakness when it has no spine. Be gentle, but never surrender your dignity. Listen, but do not let anyone steal your voice. Love, but do not disappear inside someone else's shadow. Your grandfather is stubborn, proud, and sometimes impossible, but he loves you. Let him. Family is not perfect, but real love does not demand that you shrink. And if your mother is unable to give you the tenderness you deserve, please understand that her emptiness is not proof that you are unworthy. It is proof that she has wounds she chose not to heal. Live fully, my darling girl. Build something better than what hurt you. With all my love. Daddy. Clara cried then. Not the quiet, ashamed tears of the diner. These tears came from somewhere deeper, a place that had waited 23 years to be named. Arthur sat nearby, saying nothing. When Clara finally folded the letter, she whispered, he knew. Arthur nodded. Your father saw more than people realized. Did my grandfather hate my mother? No, Arthur said. He distrusted her, but after Adrian died, he hoped grief would soften her. Instead, it sharpened her. Clara looked around the study. Why didn't he fight harder? He did, Arthur said gently, but laws, lies, and fear can build strong walls. By the time he had enough proof, you were an adult and legally beyond guardianship. He wanted to approach you carefully, then he became ill. Clara pressed the letter to her chest. I wish I had known him. He knew you, Arthur said, through reports, photographs, school records, anything he could legally obtain. He attended your college graduation from the back row. Clara looked up sharply. He was there. Arthur smiled sadly. You wore a white dress. You tripped slightly on the stage step and laughed. He said you had Adrian's laugh. Clara closed her eyes. All those years, she thought no one from her father's side cared. Someone had been watching from the back row, loving her quietly. The final confrontation with Elena happened not in a courtroom, but in the Blackwood estate garden. Elena requested the meeting through her attorney. Against advice, Clara agreed, but only with Arthur and security nearby. Her mother arrived dressed in cream, her pearls perfect, her posture straight. She looked more annoyed than afraid. You've made a spectacle of this family, Elena said. Clara almost laughed. Hello to you too. Elena glanced at the estate. This house should have been mine. There it is, Clara said softly. What? The truth. Elena's eyes narrowed. You think you understand everything because some old lawyer handed you papers. I understand enough. No, you don't. Elena stepped closer. I loved your father. Do you hear me? I loved Adrian before the Blackwoods poisoned him against me. Clara shook her head. They didn't poison him, he saw you. Elena's face tightened. Clara continued, and he still tried to leave me with kindness, even toward you. For the first time, Elena's expression flickered. Clara pulled a copied page from her coat pocket, not the full letter, just one line. Her emptiness is not proof that you are unworthy. Elena read it. Her lips parted. Then her face hardened again. He always was sentimental, she said. Clara folded the paper, and you always mistook tenderness for weakness. You'll become just like them, Elena said, cold, rich, surrounded by people who obey you. No, Clara said, I might make mistakes, I might be overwhelmed, but I won't become you. Elena laughed, though her eyes shone. You need me. I needed a mother, Clara replied. That was never the same thing. The words landed. Elena looked away first. Clara took a breath. I'm not here to punish you personally, she said. The law will handle what you did, but I am finished letting you define me. You don't get my fear anymore. You don't get my silence. You don't get my life. Elena's mask cracked for one brief second. Beneath it, Clara saw not power, but bitterness so old it had become a home. Then Elena turned and walked away. Clara did not follow. The court cases took months. Damien fought loudly, then quietly, then desperately. When his company collapsed under debt and fraud investigations, he tried to present himself as another victim of Elena's manipulation. But the recordings, payments, forged documents, and archive incident told a different story. He lost the penthouse first. Clara did not move back in. Instead, she converted the top 3 floors of the Aureum Tower into transitional housing for women leaving financial abuse, wrongful eviction, and family coercion. Ruth from the diner was invited to the opening ceremony as Clara's guest. When Ruth saw the plaque near the entrance, she cried. The Ruth House Initiative, funded by the Blackwood Foundation. For those who need one open door. You didn't have to do all this, Ruth said. Clara hugged her. You fed me when I had nowhere to go. I gave you toast. You gave me dignity. Saint Victoria changed too. Clara removed the administrators tied to Elena. She restored the free treatment programs. She created stricter privacy protections and anonymous reporting channels for staff. Dr. Mercer stayed on as medical director, but now with the authority to run the hospital as a place of care rather than politics. Vanessa's nursing license was suspended for a period after the investigation. She accepted responsibility publicly and entered a patient ethics and rehabilitation program. Clara did not interfere. 1 year later, Vanessa wrote a letter. Clara almost did not open it. But she did. Dear Clara, I know I have no right to ask anything of you. This is not a request for forgiveness. I only wanted you to know I am working as a caregiver now at a small recovery home while I complete the requirements to reapply for my license. I think often about the night at the Penthouse. I think about how easy it was for me to laugh at another woman's pain because I thought standing next to a powerful man made me powerful too. It did not. It made me small. You could have destroyed me more than the truth already did. You didn't. I am trying to become someone who understands the difference. I hope your life is peaceful. Vanessa. Clara folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. She did not answer. Some apologies did not require a response. Damien's final act came 6 weeks after his sentencing hearing began. He requested to speak to Clara privately. She refused. Then he requested to speak in open court. The judge allowed a brief statement. Damien stood thinner than before, his expensive confidence gone, but his eyes still searched the room like he expected to find a mirror. I loved my wife, he said. Clara sat beside Arthur, hands folded. Damien continued, I made terrible choices under pressure. I was afraid of losing everything I built. The prosecutor looked unimpressed. Damien turned toward Clara. You have to understand, he said, I built my life from nothing. Clara met his gaze. No, she said quietly, though the room was too large for him to hear. You built it from mine. Damien's voice cracked, but not with remorse, with frustration. I never meant for it to go this far. That was the closest he came to admitting anything. Not I hurt you. Not I lied. Only, I did not mean to get caught by consequences this large. The judge sentenced him according to the law, not as harshly as some wanted, not as lightly as Damien expected, enough to mark the end of his empire. As officers led him away, Damien looked back once. For years, Clara had wanted him to look at her with love. Then with regret. Then with fear. But in that final moment, she realized she no longer needed anything from his eyes at all. She turned away first. 2 years after the night she was thrown out, Clara stood on the rooftop garden of the Blackwood headquarters, overlooking a city that no longer felt like a cage. The skyline glittered. Somewhere among those towers was the penthouse where her life had ended and begun. Miriam joined her with a folder. The board approved the affordable housing expansion, Miriam said. Clara smiled unanimously. Almost, one abstention from Mr. Halden, who believes compassion has poor margins. Tell Mr. Halden compassion is the reason we still have a company people trust. Miriam laughed. You sound like your grandfather. Clara looked out over the city. I wish that scared me less. It should comfort you. Maybe someday. Miriam handed her the folder. There's one more thing. The historical wing at St. Victoria is ready for dedication. They want to name it after Jonathan. Clara shook her head slowly. No. Miriam blinked. No. Name it after Adrian Blackwood, Clara said. My father believed care should have tenderness and a spine. Miriam smiled. That sounds like you. Clara looked down at the folder, then at the skyline. For so long she had been told that power meant control. Damien believed it. Elena worshipped it. Vanessa had chased its shadow. But Clara had learned power could be something else. The ability to open a locked door. The courage to tell the truth. The choice not to become the people who hurt you. That evening, Clara returned to the old Blackwood estate. Arthur was waiting in the study, reading glasses perched low on his nose. You're late, he said. I own the company, Clara replied. I'm allowed. Your grandfather said the same thing. Clara smiled and sat across from him. On the desk between them lay 3 things: her father's letter, her grandfather's watch, and her old wedding ring. She had kept the ring not out of longing, but as evidence of a lesson. Arthur nodded toward it. Have you decided what to do with that? Clara picked it up. For a moment, she remembered Damien sliding it onto her finger, Elena crying perfect tears in the front row, cameras flashing, guests applauding a future no one intended to protect. Then she remembered the hallway. The suitcase. The rain. The diner toast. The legal folder. The hospital corridor. The press conference. The garden. Her father's words. Build something better than what hurt you. I have, Clara said. A month later, St. Victoria opened the Adrian Blackwood Center for Patient Dignity. The new wing provided long-term care, mental health support, legal advocacy for patients facing exploitation, and emergency housing partnerships through the Ruth House Initiative. At the entrance stood a small glass display. Inside was Clara's wedding ring, reset into the center of a simple sculpture shaped like an open door. Beneath it, a plaque read, "From what tried to bind her, she built a way out." Reporters asked Clara if the display was meant as a message to Damien. No, she said. To your mother. No. To Vanessa Reed. Clara shook her head. Then who is it for? Clara looked toward the patients entering the new wing. Some walked with family, some came alone, some looked afraid, some looked relieved. It's for anyone who was told they had nothing, she said. and for the moment they discover they were never nothing at all. That night, Clara visited the diner where Ruth still worked part-time because, as she insisted, retirement was boring. Ruth poured coffee without asking. "You look happy," she said. Clara thought about it. Was she happy? Not in the simple way she once imagined. Her life was complicated. Her responsibilities were enormous. Some nights, loneliness still found her. Some memories still hurt. But she woke each morning, knowing the life she lived belonged to her. "Yes," Clara said, "I think I am." Ruth placed toast in front of her. Clara laughed again. Some traditions matter. Clara lifted the toast like a toast of its own. "To better doors," she said. Ruth smiled, "and to knowing who owns the building." Clara laughed harder than she had in years. Outside, the city moved beneath a sky full of lights. Somewhere, Damien was learning that charm could not unlock every room. Somewhere, Elena was surrounded by the ruins of the control she had mistaken for love. Somewhere, Vanessa was trying, perhaps honestly, to rebuild herself from the consequences of her own choices. And Clara Blackwood was no longer the woman outside the penthouse door. She was the woman with the key.